Welcome to Whiskey One, the channel for the novice, the curious, and the connoisseur. I'm Whiskey One, and today we're going to be reviewing a tequila, an Anejo Tequila at that. And before we dive into the Herradura Ultra, we want to answer a few questions for all of you watching. Is this something that a whiskey drinker would appreciate? And what is up with the missing age statement? And why is that important? So stick around. Alright Whiskey fam, thanks for joining us here today to check out a tequila review. I know most of you joining are whiskey heads, but from time to time we like to switch things up and check out different tequilas as well as mezcals and barrel-aged beers. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to dive into and sort of share with all of you is that this is an aged Añejo, and you would not know it just simply by looking at the color. We'll get into that. And before we do, I just want to do a quick shout out to some of our supporters on Instagram. If you follow us there or on Facebook, there's a few folks that regularly tag us, and we want to really show appreciation to you. So to the Whiskey Pierogi, Whiskey Dramster, and of course, Mag57, Tex Whiskey Guy. We really appreciate you guys showing us support and love over these last couple of years. And hopefully you guys should check them out as well. Now, let's get into this tequila because, like I said, it's crystal clear. Some folks in the tequila industry refer to this as a Cristalino Añejo. And I'm going to pour a little bit here just so you guys can see just how clear that is. No color. You would think that it's water unless you smelled it. Now, this is an ultra-aged tequila by Herradura, and it's one of their more premium añejos, and it's been aged for about 25 months, or at least so they say. I had a chance to recently be part of a tequila tasting with Herradura, who was hosted by Brown Foreman, and this was one of their bottles that they featured, and we had a master taster, if you will, named by Ruben Aceves, and he's been with them for quite some time, and he's the one that explained that this is one of their ultra-aged añejos, and he mentioned that it was aged for about 25 months. Now, I like to dig into sources myself and see what others say, especially on the actual websites that brands have. Now, I didn't see any information about how long it's been aged, and actually some other sources say that it's been aged for up to 49 months. So it begs the question, you age something for quite some time, obviously more than a year, why wouldn't you put that information on the label? And I find that interesting because there's a lot of tequilas that don't put that information on there, like you would see on a whiskey label. And I think that it's pretty much something that should be on the label, especially for being aged for as long as it has. But I digress. Let's dive into the tequila itself because, you know, when I first nosed this and tasted this and enjoyed it, I instantly knew the type of whiskey drinker that would also enjoy this. And I'll get into that here later, but let's talk about, you know it, the legs. Now this does feature a good, moderate, mild viscosity. Not a lot. You do see some beads on the glass. It doesn't have a lot of legs or tears that run down the glass like you would expect. And I think that's largely in part to the fact that it's been filtered. This has been filtered with activated charcoal. And there's another little tidbit that I'm going to add that you may not know about the Ultra. And that is, prior to even being filtered, they do add a little bit of agave syrup. Now you might be asking yourself, how much is a little? I don't know. They don't share that information, but that is one of the things that you're going to notice when you actually dive into this, especially on the nose and the taste. So let's get in here. From what I remember, this is something that is succulently sweet, decadent. On the nose, one of the first things you notice is rounds and rounds of vanilla. You do get that agave syrup. Different than you would expect from like a honey note, something a little bit more earthy. It almost feels like sugar, if you will. And interestingly, if you ever had agave syrup, it tastes very close to brown sugar, just not as earthy. But going back to the nose, I get notes of coconut, toasted marshmallow, and then you start to see a little bit of that citrus feel. Some of that citrus character like dried papaya, a little bit of lime zest. But it's more light than I think other tequilas are, where they're more robust and crisp with their citrus. And I get just a small whiff of smoke. Now, I'm not going to say it's like campfire smoke. It's just noticeably there. And I think that comes from the aging. Now, being something that has been charcoal filtered, if you will, what I'm typically looking for is some of that rawness, you know, some of those congeners that you get from not being filtered. But nonetheless, I think it's very pleasant on the nose. I think this is something that you're definitely going to want to share with your family and friends. Very delectable, very like perfumey, as well as very sweet. So let's dive in on the taste. Cheers. Oh, wow. Silky smooth, very accessible. It's bottled at 80 proof or 40% ABV. And one of the first things that you get is just sweetness that is a bit clingy onto the palate. It's silky, like I said. It kind of draws you in, and I really want to take another sip right away. So here we go. I really want to coat my palate with this because, again, a lot of the things that I got on the nose are really right there on the palate. Again, toasted marshmallow, I get little chunks of coconut, a lot of vanilla. This is a vanilla bomb if you think about it. Tons and tons of vanilla cream. And then, you know, when you get past all the creaminess and the sweetness, you then start to get more and more of the citrus feel. The papaya, again, like dried papaya, something that you would get like in a trail mix or something like that. But you also get just slight notes of pineapple. I wish there was a lot more of that, but there really isn't. And then you just get little feints of lime. Not a lot, but what truly stands out is just how creamy and buttery and sweet it is. And then, of course, you get that agave syrup, you know, something that is just really sweet, holds onto the palate, but makes everything just so much more delectable about it. I'm going to take one more sip, and now I'm going to share with you who I think this would be perfect for. I'm telling you. It was the first thing that I thought of when I was drinking this. I think those that are bourbon whiskey drinkers will fall in love with this. You know, a lot of the things that you get from a bourbon, like caramel, a little bit of oak, slight oak, right? But a lot of that vanilla, that creaminess, that sweetness, and just a touch of spice is what usually draws the bourbon drinker to enjoy bourbon, whiskey especially. And I think for someone who is maybe just wanting to see what tequila is all about, should give this one a try. It's not very expensive. You can find this for about between $40 and $50 US. And it's pretty much found everywhere. Every liquor store I've been to, whether small, whether big box store, you can find it. And I think for the price and being an ultra-aged Añejo, certainly it's well worth the cheddar. And I think that for an overall, you know, impression, this checks all the right boxes for me, especially as a whiskey drinker. Now, I'm not a big tequila drinker, but I can say that for those that really want to see what tequila is all about, a beautiful sipper. I would really think that sipping this neat is something that most of you will enjoy doing. Certainly could throw it in a cocktail, and based on its like creaminess, butteriness, and sweetness, will really ramp up a good cocktail. Now, some of you might be wondering, all right, So what type of whiskey drinker would this speak to? Now, I think that this is something that would really speak to the whiskey curious, especially because most novices are not probably trying to delve into something different outside of whiskey initially. You know, they probably just want to at least learn a little bit more about whiskey. But those that are really curious, really wanting to open things up and just try it all, will definitely want to give this one a shot. So thank you for all of you watching. If you're new to the channel, we appreciate you stopping by. If you liked the video, hit that like button, comment below. You may have something that you would like us to review next, so please do so. And consider subscribing. And for those of you that are not new to the channel, thank you for continuing to show us the love. Here at Whiskey One, it's about the one you enjoy. Cheers.
Shut up and sit down.